Welcome to the Love Unplugged podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Frigon. You may know me from Project Love, where we focus on operational excellence, but here we go deeper. We're your go-to for raw, empowering conversations on entrepreneurship and stepping into your CEO role with love and confidence. Each week, we'll explore everything from mindset shifts, leadership, optimal wellness, to efficient systems, all within a community of visionary women like you. Ready to get real about building a business and life you love? Hit subscribe and let's start this transformative journey together. Hello, loves. Today I am joined by the lovely Diane Marie Pisera. Diane leads as the visionary behind DMB Consulting, drawing from her MBA education, corporate expertise at companies including Conair, and successful brand building journey. She holds invaluable insights to create an impactful online brand rooted in heritage that deeply resonates with her audience. Her mission is centered on empowering entrepreneurs to elevate and expand their online presence, aiming to leave a lasting generational legacy. She has spoken at Iona University and at diverse corporate branding and marketing workshops. Additionally, she earned recognition as a top LinkedIn creator, showcased on a Times Square billboard, which is massive. Congratulations to that. That is a huge accomplishment, and I know many are striving to get there, which this is just amazing. I can't even imagine what that must have felt like, getting that news and seeing it in person. So we'll dive into that a little bit later. But welcome. I am so honored and excited to have you as my guest. I'm so excited to dive into your expertise and your journey leading up to building this incredible business. But for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit more about you personally.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Just a little bit about myself. I am an Italian immigrant. I moved with my mom when I was 9 years old. Didn't speak the language, didn't know the culture, was pretty much a lost soul for, I would say, my fourth grade. Then this really is my kind of like the vision I had when I wanted to start my own business. I always saw social media and building a brand online as an opportunity. And I always saw social media as something that evened out the playing field, that allowed people that didn't have the financial backing to start their own business by simply like sharing what they know how to do on social media. So that concept really fascinated me, and I overall thought it was fun and just really cool, and decided to go into marketing. I got my MBA degree in marketing at Iona University, minored in international business, and started my own page on Instagram, and I started to grow that page. And with doing so, a lot of my family, my friends, people I knew always came to me for like advice on social media, like asking me questions, and I would always help out whenever possible, but a lot of times like people would always come to me for social media or for just branding, marketing help. And then I realized that this is something that I could be doing for like a living, that people make money off of this, that people like pay other people for their knowledge. But at first I was just helping out, friends and family with social media. So I would definitely say my area of expertise are between Instagram and then also LinkedIn. I wanted two platforms that to me are very different and have different audiences, and I love them equally for different reasons. So I would definitely say those are my top two specialties in social media.
Amazing. Okay. So we're going to dive into that expertise a little bit later because I have a ton of questions in regards to marketing on social media platforms, specifically LinkedIn. But before coming up with this idea for starting a business, what was your journey like? Did you go to school for something specific? Did you always was this the intention from the very start to run your own business, or how did the idea come to be?
I wanted to be an entrepreneur since I was in college, right? So I'm in college and I just felt had to be something different. I didn't know really what it was, but I just felt like there had to be another way of doing things. There, even like not just career, just even like family life, like everything. I felt like there had to be a better way than like what I was currently like living in. So I was in college. I didn't have money to pay for a therapist or anything like that. So I got into self development. I went to the library. I wish I remember what book I started reading. I got into self development and really like became obsessed with this whole genre of like self development books, self development podcasts, and later on. And a lot of them talked about having your own business. And this was something that I always kind of like thought about, but I didn't think it would be possible because I didn't even know where to begin. So then I had these books kind of lay it out. This was also like the beginning of social media, like when it was like starting to become what it is now, with like people making money off of it, people starting businesses. So I think it was just like the perfect storm because I was reading those books and then this was also like the trend that was happening. And I said, okay, well, this is actually possible. And I saw I saw that it was possible because of social media. I'm like, okay, well, if other people are doing it, then this is something I could also do. Because back in the day, I feel like if you didn't have the money to start a business, it was pretty much impossible to start a business because you had to spend marketing behind, like you had to spend so much money up front. But social media, I think, kind of like evened out the playing field and saying like, yes, you do need to spend money when you start a business, but not as much as like if you were doing this before social media times.
Yeah, it's opened up the playing field so much more for a lot of people. The overhead costs are so minimal. Like I think I pay maybe 300 a month for the operating costs of my business, and
Exactly.
like that's doable. That's totally doable.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Now, starting a business based off of your zone of genius is one thing, right? You already know that zone of genius. You have experience and you're qualified, of course, to support others with that. But then comes along all of this other stuff that you have to learn that are most likely not your expertise, that you may not even know anything about, and you're now wearing all of these hats.
Yes.
So, how was that experience for you?
It was definitely scary at first. I'm always, and I feel like a lot of the more creative people like will understand this. I was so terrified of doing anything with taxes, anything with like law, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't even know where to begin. So I kind of knew my strengths and my weaknesses, and I said, okay, I could do this part, I could figure this part out, but like I need to hire someone to do this just to make sure it's done correctly, because my fear was always doing something incorrectly by accident and then getting in trouble, you know? So I think I was always scared to do something like that. So I would say lawyer and an accountant were at the top of the list just because I knew that this was not my area of expertise and I was scared of always of doing the wrong thing or filing the wrong taxes and just doing it by total accident.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. When it comes to the legality side or like the taxes side, I'm like, nope, I
Right.
am not handling that because that could have some serious repercussions for sure.
Exactly. And, you know, it could be something that it's a total accident that you don't know better and you think you're doing everything correctly and then you're not.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what have been your biggest lessons in growing your business?
One of the biggest things I think I've learned, and I feel like it was one of those things that I learned quickly that I was like, okay, this is different, is when you have your own business, you need to be extremely decisive about things, and you need to really like make the decision. When you're working for somebody else, a lot of times you have a team to ask for help, for advice. But when you're first starting out, especially, or even when you're leading a team, it's just you. So you need to be extremely decisive, and you can't really go back on your word. You need to kind of say, okay, this is a decision I made, and I need to just stick through it. And like, whether it's good, or if it's a good or a bad decision, you need to just figure it out and say, okay, this is this decision I came to, and that's it. So I think that was like one of my first lessons, that was kind of like, okay, this feels like a little bit different just because I didn't have anybody. So it was just like, okay, if something works, it's my fault. I'm like, if something doesn't work, it's still my, like, just claiming that responsibility and really being so decisive with everything.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. You're now in charge, fully in charge, and
Exactly.
it's scary.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially for people who are afraid to fail. This is a huge thing to adapt to.
Exactly, because when you're working with other people, like, of course you are in every position, you have to make a decision, but you can run it by other people. If you're not the manager, like, you would ask your manager. So it's totally different when it's just you, and it's your livelihood. You need to really, like, think about it, it's stressful. Like, at first I'm like, this is so different. I'm like, this is a lot, but then you kind of just get used to it. But at first I remember this was a specific like feeling that I remember going through, thinking, okay, well, it's all on me. So a lot of times, if I'll take like the day to even really think about something, because I know that whatever decision I come to, it has, like, I need to think about it. I can't just be doing things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find that this feeling doesn't necessarily go away. It's not like you automatically just you get comfortable making decisions and dealing with whatever outcome and using it as a learning opportunity, and you're good to go no matter how much you scale, right, and grow. Even at the stage now that I'm at, I'm trying to put on an event, and I'm like, okay, do I want to do this? Are you sure? What if nobody buys tickets? Like, what
Hmm.
if it fails? What if it doesn't, like, the value isn't as much as like I'm thinking it's going to be? Like, I'm like questioning myself, and I'm like, no, you're never going to know the answer to these questions. You're never going to get feedback so that you can improve until you actually put one on. So you need to actually do it.
Exactly. It's one of those things, like, you just have to do it, and that's it. And like you said, like, it never actually goes away fully. You just, I feel like, learn how to behave and how to work with it.
Yeah, and kind of talk to yourself in your own head a little bit,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
obviously get some support from people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's such an ongoing process. Now let's dive into your expertise. With your experience, your vast experience with social media, what are the key strategies for leveraging social media as your marketing tool to drive business growth and profitability? And I want to specifically talk about now, because I know marketing has changed. The way that people are selling, the way that people are buying, things are changing now. So I'd love to see what your strategies are.
So my number one thing that I say is, don't try to be on every platform. And I know a lot of people say this, but I feel like a lot of people get very overwhelmed, and I don't blame them, to be on every platform, because they're comparing their business with a large business, a large corporation who hires all, like, has a full social media team and can do it. Especially if you're one person, it's extremely difficult, at least when you're first starting out, to be on all these platforms and doing all these things. It sounds good when you put it on pen and paper, but then when you're actually running your business, it doesn't add up. And a lot of times I see some of my clients get very overwhelmed, and they're saying, okay, like, this isn't for me. This is too time consuming. And that's because they don't have a clear strategy of which platforms they should be focusing on, or a clear strategy to say, okay, this is exactly what I'm posting these days. So it's when you don't have a clear kind of like method, you're all over the place. And when you're all over the place, it gets really annoying to get a task done. So before you say like, oh, I'm just going to start posting, I don't know, lifestyle content. What is lifestyle content? Like, break it down for me. Like, what are the three kind of like subjects that you're covering with your lifestyle content? Because lifestyle content, yeah, that makes sense, but it's such a vague answer. When you leave something kind of like vague, it doesn't get done, and it's all over the place. So I think definitely picking one or two platforms that you want to focus on, then starting adding more once you get the hang of it and see, okay, like I can take on another platform, is definitely my number one tip. And having a clear strategy and clear methodology, like, okay, this is the kind of post I'm sharing on Monday, this is the post I'm sharing on Tuesday, and just having a rhythm. Because if you don't have a rhythm, you're just going to get extremely just overwhelmed with social media, which is what I hear so many people tell me, like, I don't have the time to do this, or this is too much for me, like I get stressed out. And that's because they don't have like a clear plan, so there's nothing for them to follow. So that's just, I hear this so much, and it's something that I feel like I hear so much, a lot of people talk about it, but I always get this feedback with social media.
Yeah. Now I kind of want to highlight just quickly before we dive into more things, because a lot of people like have their strategy. Like, say, for example, I primarily post on Instagram and LinkedIn. That's it, type thing. And then you have other people coming in to the conversation. They're like, oh, you should be posting on like threads and TikTok. My engagement rate is like through the roof compared to Instagram. Instagram has gone like way down. Get on those platforms. And then of course, then you're like, oh shoot, like I'm on a platform that's like tanking out. You know what I mean? Like it's not doing so well. I need to jump ship or add this other platform. But and just like a lot of people also think that maybe they can just repurpose whatever they're putting on Instagram onto all of these different platforms. But all these different platforms have a different way that you should be sharing content, like the different types of content, right? So can you just quickly highlight Instagram is for these types of content?
Mm-hmm.
TikTok is for this. LinkedIn is for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So how I would say to repurpose to make your life easy is maybe you repurpose like the theme of the post, but have it in different formats. That's pretty much what I do. Sometimes I'll repost the same and I'll change little things. But like, just to give you an example, I personally don't post video on LinkedIn. I only post either a graphic or a photo. That I just know LinkedIn right now is not prioritizing video because TikTok and Instagram are. So they want to differentiate themselves. So knowing that off the bat, okay, if I'm creating a reel for Instagram or a TikTok, I'm not posting that on LinkedIn because it doesn't work. What I could do is, if I am posting something on my Instagram, on my business page, for example, about personal branding, then I could take that theme and then apply it to a LinkedIn post, but I'll write a lot more on my LinkedIn post because people are actually on that app to learn and want a long caption. On Instagram, on a reel, I personally, like, sometimes I'll do a longer caption that I can use on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's quick and easy. It depends on what the post is. So that's my version of reposting, or multiple, like, sharing the post on multiple platforms, just because it's more of like the theme that aligns. Then TikTok, for example, TikTok is very low key. I feel like TikTok, if you go on my TikTok, I have two pages. I have one for my business and one that it's everything. Literally everything I'll share, maybe the same thing that I've posted on Instagram, but what I'll do is I'll swap out the text. I do not use Instagram text on TikTok. So I'll, like, if it's a B-roll kind of content, then I'll just make sure it's in a TikTok text, just because I know the platform likes that. And just honestly, like, I like the TikTok text better. I think it's easier to read. So I just know that if I'm competing with other content on the app, if other people are using this text, it's better, just easier on the eye, and then I go in with my Instagram text that it's a little bit harder to read, my content isn't going to get seen. So I'll swap out the text and add whatever trending sound is going on that week and call it a day. Again, the caption on TikTok, very like minimal, like short to the point, but TikTok is just a lot more laid back, and you could do more of like the content of just you talking while you're like putting makeup on or making a coffee, whatever. And like that's acceptable, but like I would not post that on Instagram. Maybe I would post that on Instagram story, but I wouldn't post that on Instagram as a post. I would never post that on LinkedIn. So every platform just has like a different vibe. So my version of kind of like using the same post through multiple platforms is really, okay, what is the theme and how can I use this one idea and then spread it out to different platforms.
Gotcha. Okay, I like that. Now let's talk about LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Because I've been hearing for a little while now that LinkedIn is a very untapped resource when it comes to the social platforms. Now, the very first thing that everybody dives into is your LinkedIn bio, like your whole page and how it should be like laid out and structured and whatnot. So what are the key elements of a LinkedIn profile that professionals like service-based providers often overlook, but that can make a significant difference in how they are perceived by their audience on that platform?
Yeah. So one thing that I always like, if I'm just landing on someone's LinkedIn for the first time, if I don't see that they have a banner like at all, that already right off the bat, they're not LinkedIn users, like they're not on the platform and they don't know what's going on here. Like a lot of people just have simple banners, which is fine, but a lot of people just don't have anything because they don't know it's a thing. They just, I don't know, there's no banner. So I would say make sure you have a banner. If you are a service-based business, like make sure that like the banner has like a call to action, like how, like listen to my podcast, subscribe to my newsletter, book a 15-minute call, like something that then when they go to your links, it's going to match. So it makes a lot of sense for like a new person. Your banner is kind of like one of the first things you see, especially if it's like colorful, like it's really, it's kind of like large on your page. So you're going to see that banner and you're going to say, oh, okay, this girl has a podcast. Okay, like maybe I'll check out her podcast. It's about this, and this. It's a business podcast. It's a self-development podcast. Okay, this is what she does. So I feel like having like a banner that kind of just does like a little bit of like a snippet of like who you are, what you do is important. Also, like a lot of people, if you were featured in the media or any kind of like publication, they'll put the logos of that, like featured in Forbes, featured in this. So again, that adds to that credibility, saying, okay, this is someone I should be following because she was featured in all these publications. So a lot of times I say like the banners maybe don't look as nice because they're not as clean and like pretty, but like you kind of just wanted to get the point across of like what you do, like where you were featured, if you have that credibility, if you were featured in those things, like what's your business about, like you have a podcast, like you want people to know exactly kind of like who you are. So I definitely say like that's one of the top things. And then the bio should be more than just what like you do or your job title. Like you should have your industry that you work in. If you're a service-based business, what can you do to help others? Like what kind of results are you driving? And I think that's really helpful because, again, that's at the top of the page, you see banner bio. So people are just judging you just from that. So having like a clear understanding of say, like, okay, this person works on this. This is the industry that she's in, and she can do this for me. So right off the bat, you know exactly what they do and what the kind of results they can make, the impact that they make. And if you're a content creator, I always say like have something that talks about the content that you create. So if I'm posting about marketing, like I need to have something about marketing there, because if they do decide to follow me, then they know, okay, this girl is going to be posting about personal branding, social media, and marketing. And then the other thing on your bio is, if you, especially if you're looking for a job, right? You want to include like buzzwords in your industry, just because like recruiters are really scanning those profiles, and the people that have those buzzwords, your profile is going to stand out. And I always say, like, if you don't know what the buzzwords are for your industry, then this is when ChatGPT comes in handy, and search it on that and just like weave them into your bio.
Okay, I love that. There's a couple of things that I definitely need to do to my banner. Even though I do have a nice banner up there, I love the idea of adding the call to action as well as, the feature, maybe the
Right.
logos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
At
love that.
first it was very much against my practice because I like everything clean, minimal. And when I had to do this, I'm like, oh no, like I need it to be more like in your face. And I'm very much not that, but there is something to the science.
I'm not opposed to it. We can make it work. It can still look good. All right, so let's dive into LinkedIn being a powerful tool for service-based providers, professionals, and whatnot. What are your top strategies for individuals or businesses to optimize their LinkedIn presence?
So, as I talked about, definitely optimizing your bio, your banner. And the one thing I don't see people use is, especially if you're a service-based business or like just an entrepreneur, they have this section, it's at the bottom, and it's for recommendations. So if you're collecting client testimonials, this is what I've been doing. You're collecting them a lot of times through your website, through a form. How I collect client testimonials is through LinkedIn. And the reason why I do this is it boosts your algorithm because LinkedIn values relationships. So right off the bat, you're boosting your algorithm. So you already have that. Then the second thing is you have to either request it from someone or someone can just write it in. But it's like their profile shows up on your page. So for a lot of people, like I always think like, okay, are these testimonials real? Like you see these like testimonials on websites and you think like sometimes you're like, okay, like is this real? On LinkedIn, you know they're real because they're people like actually giving them to you. You can't be on Canva just making something up, you know? I don't know if anybody does this or not. I've never done it, but like I'm just saying there's always that like level of like skeptical that like a client who is looking for something like that can pop into their head and say like, okay, like is this even real? But when you do it on LinkedIn, because it has to come from someone else's profile, there's that extra level of like security and trust. And again, you're getting the same results. You're getting your testimonial, which then you can copy and paste it into a Canva and post it on Instagram, and you could post it on your website. Like, so you're getting the testimonials, except now it's living on your LinkedIn profile. So people who are checking you out on LinkedIn can just scroll down and they'll see it. You're boosting your algorithm because it's valuing relationships. And I don't see a lot of people talking about this. And I say, this was, as soon as I realized that this was a featured, I said, okay, well, this is how I'm getting all my customer testimonials from now on. And like, even if I have to email them and say like, hey, like I just requested a testimonials through LinkedIn, do you mind just doing that for me? It's the same thing, whether they're filling out a form or they're filling it out on LinkedIn. It's the exact same process. It's just a different platform.
I love that. Okay, so I might want to touch on that a little
Yeah.
bit more. I know I have a whole bunch more questions, but a lot of times with the testimonial gathering, you kind of want to dive into specifics about your service or like the product or just things that wouldn't be a part of the testimonial. So would you recommend that maybe you have your form that they would go in and rate certain things or provide feedback on certain things, and then at the end ask them for a actual testimonial, but direct them to the LinkedIn, or let them know in that form that you've sent a request through LinkedIn for them to provide the full testimonial?
Absolutely. That's either I would link it through the form or I would say it in like an email. Here's, a feedback form. Just, it's more for me just to get a better understanding of what you liked about working with me and what I could improve on. Like, that's how I use my feedback forms. It's really much for me. So I say, okay, this is what I need to work on, and this is what's going to take me to the next level. And then use the testimonial on LinkedIn to really just as my testimonial that then I'll be sharing on social media. So I separate the two, because for me, one's a feedback form, like this is for me, like I just want to get a better understanding, like what do I do well and what do I need to work on. And then my testimonial is like, please help my business, write me a testimonial, whether it's on LinkedIn or a form. It's for me to help me spread the word, especially if you were happy with my services.
Yeah. And would you have them do the testimonial on your personal LinkedIn page or your business's page?
Personal.
Personal. Okay. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. All right. So, how do you approach content creation for LinkedIn to create engagement and to expand your network effectively? Like, I find, like, I get the content creation you kind of touched on, graphics, photo, a longer form post. It could be educational and whatnot because people are taking the time to read and whatnot. But I don't personally understand how the algorithm works, how LinkedIn works from like being able to expand your reach. Because like when I go to search for people and like start following people, like it's very challenging. It's not the same as like the other social media platforms. It's very much like they're connected with them. You can't see who they're connected to find people that are similar. You kind of like it's very disjointed when it comes to
Yeah.
searching for people.
Yeah. So one thing that I love doing is I like, if I go to any networking events, any virtual networking events, like I basically did this yesterday. I added everybody that was on that on LinkedIn. And then it's going to start suggesting other people like that. But the other thing is, if you're on LinkedIn and you're using LinkedIn, and for example, you go to an event, a live event, an audio event, a lot of times the people who will go to that event are similar in the same industry, have the same interests as you. So like, that's how you could find people that are in that same industry. And I think that's, like that's how you find like your crew. And then once you find like a couple and you start engaging with each other's posts, you'll see that more people, just from engaging, from commenting, they'll say, oh, okay, well, Jessica was commenting on this person's post. She's also does this similar industry. So if I like this person's posts and this person's content, I'm probably going to like Jessica's content. So it's very much like, it's very relationship driven. And that's one thing that I really like about the platform. When I was first starting out, I took like two separate courses on the platform because I really wanted to understand it, to know it well. And I liked that it was relationship driven. And I feel like other platforms don't do that as well, in my opinion.
No, it's more of a free for all.
It's more of a free for all. So I think I really enjoyed that. And at first I was scared because LinkedIn is the professional social network. And I said, okay, well, is my content even good enough to be on this platform? That was my first thought. And then after, like, I observed other people in the industry and said, okay, well, I could do this too. And the first couple of times it was scary just because of how the platform is perceived. And it definitely is more of a professional social media platform. But then I said, you know what? My content, my business content would probably and does perform so much better on this platform because everybody else is posting business content. I'm not on Instagram that I'm, competing with a dog video or, all these other entertaining videos that I rather watch personally. I rather watch those videos than my business content, but everybody on LinkedIn is posting about business. So it's, it's all the same. But while like TikTok or, Instagram and all these other platforms, you are really fighting for attention with other business owners, but also people that are putting out entertaining content. So I said, okay, well, to me, this makes so much sense to focus on this platform. So I said, okay, if this is my focus, that was my focus last year, to really like learn it and like know it. And like, if this is my focus, I'm just going to go all in on LinkedIn and I also felt like I wanted something different and new. So I'm like, this is going to be my focus and that's it.
I love that. Okay. Now, I get what you mean, like expanding your network, going to events, virtual, in person, whatnot, whoever you're connecting with, send them an invitation to connect on LinkedIn, which is fantastic. People that you're not meeting in some kind of a fashion, that you're more so just connecting with blindly. You send the follow request. Should you be sending a message? Should you just be follow? Like, what is the proper approach?
Yeah, I mean, so LinkedIn gives you, I believe, 25 free messages that you can send with your invitation. So a month. So if you have those, I would definitely put in a note. For example, let's say I found someone through someone else's content. They wrote a comment. And again, this is a great way to find people through people's comments, people in the same and similar industries or something that like really interests you. So maybe you'll find someone through a comment, you liked their comment, like you really thought it was insightful, and you want to connect with them. A lot of people, and I've done this and it's very popular, like you send a connect request and I'll put a note like, hey, I just saw your comment on this person's post. I really enjoyed it. I also think this, like, let's connect. So, and that's totally normal to do that. I've done this. It's a total like, LinkedIn like etiquette to do that. Like no one will think like that's weird or anything like that. If you ran out of the 25 messages, I don't want to pay for LinkedIn for their pro version, then what I would suggest is connecting with someone. And if they accept, then maybe like shooting them a note and messages like, hey, like, thank you for connecting. Like, I saw your comment on this person's post and, like talk about that. So then just do like a follow-up and also that boosts your algorithm because again, LinkedIn values relationships. So it's seeing like, okay, this person is messaging someone that they just connected with. So it's just boosting that algorithm. But if you do have the option to message someone when you connect with them, then I would definitely do that because there's a better chance of them accepting the connect request.
Gotcha. Okay. What about selling on social or on LinkedIn specifically? Everybody hates getting those cold sales DMs, but
They're horrible.
lead. Yeah.
They're horrible. I've never done one. It's just, first of all, that's not my vibe. That's not how I talk to people. So I just don't understand why they feel like that works. Maybe it does work. I've never bought anything from a message like that, so it hasn't really worked for me, but maybe it's working for them. So what I would say is if someone is engaging with your content and like you're thinking, okay, well, they're engaging with my content. It's not weird to send them a message and say, hey, thank you so much for the comment. I saw that like you've been engaging with my like previous content. If you have like a freebie, if you have a newsletter, a podcast, like, hey, like if you like my content on here, you probably would like this, and this. And then depending how the conversation goes, say like, oh, I also offer these services. Like if you're ever interested, like let me know, like we could book a quick 15-minute call. But to me, that's just so much more of like a softer, more normal approach because like if I go to a networking event, I just don't go up to people and say like, hey, this is like what I like. It's very weird. I don't understand it. So my personal take is like if you see someone that is engaging with your content that like might be a potential client, then it's not weird to write to them separately on the messages and just have a normal conversation saying, hey, if you like this content, you'll also like this. This is the freebie that I offer. This is, the services that I offer. Again, but like having a conversation first and not just sending these like spam messages, because no one's buying from that. No one likes to be sold to at the end of the day.
No, no, I love the human first approach. It's like the
Right.
relationship, right? That's the most important thing.
Exactly.
Now, when it comes to metrics, things that we track usually with like Instagram and TikTok and whatnot, what exactly should we be looking at or keeping in mind for KPIs when it comes to LinkedIn?
So LinkedIn offers analytics so you could see like your reach, same thing like Instagram. So you could definitely see that on your posts. You can also, one thing that again LinkedIn really values is relationships. So a lot of times the more you cultivate that aspect of your LinkedIn, the better your posts are going to perform just because it's your profile and like everything is just optimized that LinkedIn will just push out your content. So engaging with other people, again, if you're sending a friend request, a connect request on to someone, if you're messaging them after, even like if you're giving a recommendation or receiving a recommendation, that boosts that part of that algorithm. That's definitely one of them. And the other one I would say, like, engage with insights. Engage, they have like the little news section, they have those collaborative articles. So that helps your overall score of your LinkedIn profile, your link go up, and it's going to help. LinkedIn is going to start pushing out your content just a little bit more. So that is another one that they value a lot. Because like at the end of the day, like every social media platform, their goal is to keep you on that platform. So
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, those are great. Now, let's dive a little bit more into you as an entrepreneur,
mhm.
navigating multiple businesses, ventures. What advice would you have for entrepreneurs that are looking to diversify their business interests?
So this one's a tough one because especially when you're first starting out, I think it's key to focus on one thing and really doing it well before you go and do all these other projects that you want to do, these other businesses. But if you start with a lot, it's not going to work out. You're going to feel like you're all over the place. So I would say someone that's first starting out, focus on one thing, master it, do it well, and then take something else on. That's definitely like my advice. I've learned from experience on this. So that's why I'm very passionate about saying, okay, this is like the one, like focus on one thing, do it well instead of doing multiple things and not doing them as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Now, let's talk about your your offers. What do you have available to support your community, your clients? What is going on in your world?
So I offer one-on-one consulting. We can talk anything personal branding, social media, LinkedIn, anything online branding. We can talk about that, one-on-one offers. I also have a one-on-one offer specifically on LinkedIn that I help entrepreneurs really take their LinkedIn to the next level and really work on their profile, work on their content. And with that, I actually have a free webinar that I just put out that it's a video, it's a webinar and on how to really optimize your profile. So I do have that as well.
I got that, so I highly recommend everybody go sign up to receive that. It's definitely helpful. So thank you for putting that together.
Yes.
And if people are looking to connect with you, which they should, because you are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this marketing side of business, where can they connect with you? Where do you hang out the most?
So I would say Instagram and LinkedIn are definitely my top platforms. On LinkedIn, it's just my name, Diane Marie Pisera, and on Instagram, I have 2 pages. I have my business page, which is DMB consulting. And then I also have my personal page, which is Diane Marie _Pisera.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your journey and your incredible insights.
Thank you.
I know that I personally have some takeaways that I can go implement right away. So I'm sure that those tuning in might have some as well. And I highly encourage those tuning in that if this is an area of your business that you are struggling with, I recommend that you reach out to Diane Marie and chat with her and see what you can do to make some changes. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Your presence truly elevates Love Unplugged into a home for freedom-driven women who aspire to be visionary CEOs. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd be honored if you take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback helps us bring more impactful conversations to our community. Let's continue to grow this empowering community together. Until next time.